What's up, everyone? Today I'm bringing a deck profile on my Witchcrafters. Now, Witchcrafters is a very interesting deck that focuses around discarding spells to gain different effects and to summon out different Witchcrafter monsters. Sometimes a deck like this can struggle a bit, but if you build it in certain ways, it actually doesn't come up as too much of a problem. And without further ado, let's get right into it. First, I run 3 Shmeta. Shmeta during the main phase, quick effect, you contribute this card, discard one spell summon a Witchcrafter monster from your deck. Now, all the lower level Witchcrafter monsters do this to where pitch a spell to tribute, pitch a spell, special a Witchcrafter from deck. And the low ones also have effects in the graveyard too. Shmeta, you can banish it from the graveyard to foolish a Witchcrafter card. You can use it to send out another spell to the graveyard to get it back to the hand during the end phase. You can send one of the traps or another monster to use its own graveyard effect. Also run 2 Pittori. Same first effect as Shmeta, but Pittori, when it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard to draw one card, then send one Witchcrafter card from your hand to the graveyard. Or if you have none, banish your entire hand. So you definitely want to have at least one card in your hand to get rid of. Now, the discarding is not too much of a cost considering all the Witchcrafter spells have an effect to where during the end phase, if they are not activated this turn, and you control a Witchcrafter monster, you can add them back to your hand. So if you haven't used its effects, you can just grab it right back. So essentially, you're getting a free card out of this. Also run 3 Witchcrafter Jenny. Jenny, when it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card and one spell card. This effect becomes that spell's effect when that card is activated. So let's say you got Creation in the graveyard, and Jenny. You can use the effect of Jenny, banish itself, and the Creation to essentially copy Creation's effect to add a Witchcrafter monster. Also run 1 Pittori. Pittori, when it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card to target one Witchcrafter card in the graveyard, add to your hand. So it works really well in tandem with the Shmeta. So let's say you use Shmeta's effect to send one of the trap cards. You can use Pittori's effect to add that trap to your hand. Because you can either just go from Shmeta, banish it, foolish Pittori, or to get one of the other spells or traps if you haven't used them. Or if you have both in the graveyard, like if you use the Shmeta effect to special summon Pittori, then you use Pittori's effect to special summon another Witchcrafter, then you can combine Shmeta's and Pittori's effect. I also run the 1 Madame Veer. Madame Veer is the card you always want to end on. Essentially, during your opponent's turn, you can reveal one, or you can discard one spell, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls until the end of this turn. It's got an additional effect during damage calculation. If a spellcaster monster battles an opponent's monster, a quick effect, you reveal any number of spells with different names in your hand. If you do, the battling monster gains 1,000 attack and defense for each card. So let's say you got 4 spells in your hand. That monster will gain 4,000 attack. So this can definitely close out games. So it's good at negating, it's good at closing out games. This is all around a really good card. I also run the 1 Witchcrafter Hein. Hein has a cool effect to your opponent cannot target other spellcaster monsters you control with the card effects. And additionally, it has a quick effect to discard a spell, target one face up your card your opponent controls, destroy it. So this is definitely good in like going second, or not, well, good going second too, but also in turn 3 or 4 or whatever, kind of help control your opponent, because if you have both Hein and the Madame Veer, essentially you get negate and a pop. Now, next is a card that people kind of don't really run in Witchcrafters anymore, but with the new support, it actually got a lot better. And that is Witchcrafter Adele. Adele has a quick effect to discard a spell. Spells to summon one Witchcrafter monster from your hand, except Adele, which you only run the 1, so that's not really much of a problem. And then you contribute this card to special summon spellcaster monster from your graveyard. So that's definitely really good, because there's going to be some situations where you're going to use the fusion spell to send a Witchcrafter in hand, as well as the Madame Veer sometimes. And if you have Adele, then you can use the effect of Adele to grab Madame Veer back. And you can also use Adele to kind of help close games out, because if you have the Madame Veer, let's say the fusion, and Adele, you can use the effect of Adele to summon back another Witchcrafter monster. Or if you have one in your hand, you can just use it to push for an additional amount of damage. Originally I was running the Golem Aru over it, but Golem Aru just doesn't really do enough anymore. Adele just does a lot more. Also run 2 copies of a card I do not have. I run 2 Blazing Cartesia the Virtuous. This is a new card out of Darkwing Blast. Would you really consider it new anymore? I don't really know. It's a card that I really don't think is worth the price, but it's definitely very helpful in this deck because you want to go into your fusion on your very first start. If you don't, it's going to be a lot rougher. So Cartesia, if you have Fallen Albaz in your graveyard, or if you control it, you can special summon it, but we don't play that, so we don't really have that free summon for Cartesia. But with it being a level 4, we can just normal summon it. And quick effect, you fusion summon 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster from your action deck, using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. So this is essentially kind of like running additional copies of the fusion card. Now I'll also run 3 Ash Blossom Joy Spring. Fortunately, I don't really have a lot of room for hand traps, so if you're going second, this deck's going to struggle a little bit more. Moving on to the spells, and we run a lot. First, we got the 3 Witchcrafter Confusion Confession. Now, one thing I really liked about Mavens is the support it gave out for Mayakashi, Sky Striker, and Witchcrafter. All of it was good support, like none of it was like bad. So each of these 3 decks are actually stronger than they were before. For Witchcrafter, it gave us a boss monster that can also use to help disrupt our opponent and also close games out. And it's also a bit of a consistency boost, which you'll see once we get to the Vice Madam. Now Confession is the card to sort of bring it out. Fusion summon fusion monster from your action deck using monsters from your hand or field as materials, including Witchcrafter monster. Which Vice Madam requires a Witchcrafter monster, so I don't really even know why it requires it on the spell, but we're going to use one anyways. And now all the spells have this, or at least most of them, only like maybe 1 or 2 of them don't. You can only use 1 of these effects per turn, either the fusion or while this card is in your graveyard and you control a Witchcrafter monster, you can add this card from your grave to your hand. Now, all the Witchcrafter spells, at least the regular spells, one of the other continuous also have that, to where if you don't use their effects, you just add them back to the hand. So that's why I say the Witchcrafter monster effects to discard spell, tribute, special summon is kind of helped countered by the fact that these can add themselves back to the hand. So you can literally just use them, add them back to hand, and then you'll have spells for your next turn. Also run 3 copies of the Witchcrafter Creation. Creation, you can add a Witchcrafter monster from your deck to your hand. So it's basically a searcher, and like all the others, if you don't use the effect of Creation, you can add it back to from the graveyard to your hand. I really wish it wasn't like you can only use 1 of these effects per turn. I wish it was both. Then the deck might actually probably be very competitive. But unfortunately, it does. So we got to work around that. Next, I run 3 Unveiling. Unveiling lets you special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your hand. And if you do, your opponent can activate cards with effects in response to the activation of your spellcaster monster effects. So they become unchainable at this point. Also run 2 Witchcrafter Holiday. Holiday, it's a monster born special Witchcrafter from grave. Also run the 1 Draping. Draping comes up situationally. A lot of the weaker of the spells, more or less just use it for the secondary effect to use them to tribute a Witchcrafter monster, then just grab them back from the grave during the end phase. Now Draping, target spells, traps your opponent controls up to the number of Witchcrafter monsters you control. Return those targets to the hand. So it's kind of like a giant Trunade, I think it was. Either giant Trunade or Hatred. I think it's giant Trunade. Or at least it's a giant Trunade for how many monsters you control. So on average, I'd say that's going to be around 2 to 3 monsters. Also run the 1 Collaboration. Basically, a Witchcrafter monster we control can make a second attack during each battle phase. Also, if it attacks this turn, your opponent cannot activate spells or trap cards until the end of the damage step. So when we attack, it's going through. Unless it's stopped via monster effect, which that's not really going to come up. Also run the 1 Witchcrafter Scrolls. Originally I wasn't running this, but this one actually does come up a little bit better now. Now that the deck's a lot more consistent and can get monsters out a lot easier, Scrolls becomes that much better. Once per turn when your spellcaster monster destroys a monster by battle, you can draw one card. Then you can activate you also got an additional one of effect. If a Witchcrafter monster you control will be destroyed, or would discard to activate a Witchcrafter effect, you can send this card from the field to the graveyard instead. And it's got the same additional effect to add itself back if you do not activate the discard effect. So I'll also run the one Witchcrafter's Buy Streak. Rarely do I actually activate the Buy Streak. Usually it's just for the to be discard fodder for the Witchcrafters. It's got the same secondary effects as a scroll to send itself to the graveyard as the discard cost and grab itself back. Now it's got a little bit of protection that the first time each Witchcrafter monster will be destroyed by battle or card effect each turn, it is not destroyed. Which is a little bit of a nice protection, but it doesn't come up that often. Also run 3 Pot of Prosperity. Outside of the fusion, we really don't summon that many times from our extra deck. And I'd say there's maybe only 6 cards in the extra deck that we're really ever going to use. A lot of the extra deck cards are just generically good cards that work with this deck. Next, I run 3 Dark Ruler No More, 3 Triple Attack, and 1 Duster for going second, or if your opponent hand traps you going first. That's definitely going to be really good. It's good having extra draw power, change a hard effect, and being able to just rip cards. If you want to switch Feather Duster or Dark Rulers for Regakis, that's also an option. You just want good cards going second that are spells. So unfortunately, can't run an Evilly match in this pool. I guess you could, but it's not really going to give you much else. At least with Dark Ruler, Triple Deck, if they don't come up, then you can at least use them as discard fodder for the Witchcrafters. Moving on to the traps, which are also other cards that a lot of people don't really run. But after looking at them, I feel like you kind of got to run them. I run Patronus. Patronus is actually really good. You can target one of your spellcaster monsters that is banished or in your graveyard, shuffle into the deck, and if you do, add 1 Witchcrafter spell from your deck to your hand. That is really good, because most of the Witchcrafters, let's say for example, we got Patoria and Holiday, and we use Patoria's effect to tribute itself and discarding the Holiday to special summon, say, Shmeta. Then we use the Patoria effect to banish, to activate its graveyard effect to draw 1, then discard a Witchcrafter card. We can use Patronus to send this back to the deck, because we run a limited number of the Witchcrafter monsters. Then we can add a spell, and then we can just grab those Witchcrafters back off of the effect of Shmeta to foolish themselves. So it allows us to keep reusing the Witchcrafter grave effects and get a spell on top of it. This card does it all. And not only that, it's also got a pretty good grave effect as well. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target any number of your banished Witchcrafter spells with different names, add them to your hand. So if you've used Gemini a couple times, then this is really going to be helpful. So I'm honestly, a lot of times when I had the chance to send it off of the Shmeta and then add it back off of the Patoria, I actually used Patronus. Also run the 1 Masterpiece. Not as good as Patronus, but still really good. If you control a Witchcrafter monster, target spell in either graveyard, add 1 card with the same name from your deck to your hand. So if your opponent has a card that you have in your deck in your graveyard, you can use that as well. So let's say they activated Pot of Prosperity on their turn. Then you can just add yourself a copy of your Prosperity. Or you can target one of your Witchcrafter spells in your graveyard and add a copy of that to your hand. Additionally, while it's in the graveyard, you can banish this card and any number of spells from your graveyard. Special summon 1 Witchcrafter monster from your deck whose level equals the number of spells banished. So it works in tandem with the Patronus. So if you use the effect of Masterpiece to banish, let's say, 5 spells to summon a Dell, then you can use Patronus to get those spells back. So basically, Patronus' secondary graveyard effect counters the Masterpiece's secondary graveyard effect. So I definitely say running at least one of these. I wouldn't run anymore because you don't want to overload your deck with traps. Is definitely something you're going to want to run. Moving on to the extra deck. I run 2, Vice Madam. Vice Madam is really good. When a spell card or effect or a non-fusion spellcaster monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can activate one of these effects. You can either destroy one card on the field, special summon a level 6 or lower Witchcrafter monster from your hand or deck, or add a Witchcrafter spell trap from your graveyard to your hand. This card does everything. Disrupts, specials, and searches. Now, obviously, you can only activate one of these. Now, if you could activate all 3, that would be downright insane. So this is why I always want to have it on the field on my very first turn. Because with this, it provides an extra disruption if we need to, or it can grab a spell trap from the deck to use as fodder for the Matter of Veer during your opponent's turn. Or you can special summon one of the Witchcrafters for a little bit more disruption. Like, it just does everything. Now, I also run 1 Dark, 1 Hita, 1 Asa, 1 Area, and 1 Wind. Remember when I said we just run a lot of cards that are good to run in this deck, considering the Witchcrafters, they run all 6 attributes. Like, they got a Dark, Wind, Earth, Light, Fire, Water, and Wind. And these are the 5 that would come up the most. Actually, Hita, Asa, Area, and Wind come up more so than Dark, but Dark's just better against other decks. Are you going to summon these that often? Not really. Most are going to summon Witchcrafter and then try to close it out. And by having one of pretty much each of these, no matter what deck we're going against, we're probably going to be able to summon something from their graveyard and then climb up into access code. I also got the Akashic Magician. Also got the 1 Cross Sheep, which is good when you fusion summon, but this is going to come up very rarely. 1 Blocker. Blocker, discard 1 card, add a continuous trap or field spell during the end phase, which is definitely really good because you can grab you the traps. So what you can do with this is if you, let's say you have Creation. You can discard the Creation. During the end phase, you're going to add the continuous trap back to your hand and also add the Creation back off of its own effect. So Blocker is definitely really good in this. Also run 1 IP, pretty generic card to summon. Next is a card that I thought I had, but I guess I don't. And that is Selene. Selene is definitely really good. So let's say you go into Selene, use this effect summon a spellcaster, go into your Unicorn, which then you can go into your Access Code Talker. And of course, also run a Nightmare Phoenix. But you can definitely do that to kind of close games out. So that was Witchcrafters. Let me know, what do you think of Witchcrafters? Do you like them to support? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.